Good afternoon, Rotarians. This is Howard Hardesty, and thanks for joining us. Today, we'll be talking with a few folks from the Muskegon Lakeshore Museum Center. And let me start with an introduction. I'm going to start with Melissa, who is VP, and I'll tell you on her signature block on her email, it says VP and Fossil Hoarder Extraordinaire. And I think with a title like that, what could be better? So, Melissa, why don't you introduce yourself and a couple of your friends?
Hi, my name is Melissa Horton. I, like you said, am VP of the Lakeshore Museum Center. I've been with the museum for about 22 years and have worked a variety of positions in my career. And with me today is the program managers for the Hackley Hume Historic Site and the main museum center. So we have Aaron and Jackie.
Okay. So, Melissa, let me start with you. And I don't know that most people are aware of this, but Lakeshore Museum Center, 9 centers or 9 sites. Tell us what those are.
Yeah, I think most people just think of we're the one building with the mastodon out front, but we're actually a multi-site organization. We operate the main museum center, which is where a lot of visitors come to do natural history and our science rooms and our general exhibits. It's your typical museum. But we also have the Hackley Hume Historic Site, the Fire Barn Museum, the Scolnik House of the Depression era, the Heritage Museum, which is our newest merger. We also have an archives and a collection center. So we are a lot more than just exhibits that you think of. We are, we do things like preserve historic artifacts. We have natural history collections, archival documents. We do restoration work. We clean statues, and we help people with research projects. And we're also a really big part of the education community.
Got it. So, Aaron, let's talk about projects at Hackley and Hume site.
Yes, so there's always a ton of projects happening on the interiors of the buildings and the exterior of the buildings. So some of the interior buildings, some of the work happening is in one of the Hume bedrooms. We're restoring that room to make it look as more of a 1920s feel in that space. We're also working on a Hackley art project that we've been working on. It's been ongoing for a couple of years, and so that's something that's new and exciting. And then there's always exterior work. There's always painting and dry rot to be fixed due to our harsh Michigan winters. So there's always something going on. If you drive by, you'll typically see somebody outside painting if it's painting season, and there's always a project to be done.
Always, kind of like my home. So let me turn to Jackie. A couple of weeks ago, we had John Severson talking about the challenges that our schools are facing here in Muskegon County with COVID and trying to do either hybrid or remote education. Does the museum have a role in that?
Yeah, so traditionally in the past, we would have offered field trips here to the museum on various science topics, which are free of charge for Muskegon County schools. And we also, in the past, would go out to the schools and do outreaches in the classroom, which was really important with limited bus funding, because then it was a zero cost experience for the teachers. But just like everything else, we've had to go virtual. So starting last May, we started with a few select programs that our staff were offering from home, as well as coming in one at a time to the galleries to present basically via Zoom our science and history programs. And then we've just continued to expand what we are able to offer the teachers. One of the programs I'm most excited about is we've in the past always done a program called the Big Lesson, where teachers take a special training during the summer to be able to come to the museum for one full week and use all of our resources and access to our artifacts for a hands-on experience or a object-based learning experience. And so we've been working with those same teachers now to figure out how we can do that virtual, what resources we can provide to them, and how we can come into their classroom via the computer and work with their students this school year.
So how's that working?
It's working well. Sorry, I didn't hear the end of your question.
How's that being received by the teachers and staff?
They really enjoy the opportunity. So it's been a great opportunity, especially when all the kids were at home last year. It provided something different for them to be doing when all the kids were doing their schooling from home. And then even now, as the kids are coming back into the classroom, we'll still be coming into their classroom virtually as well. And they have been scheduling this fall already, getting all their programs set up for the coming months.
Got it. Okay. So, Melissa, this summer we had a millage, and that was successful. Very thankful for all of that. And are there things that the museum is doing in response to that millage being passed?
Yes, we are very, very thankful for everybody's yes votes this August. And what we do is we make sure that the museum center is always free to county residents as a way of thanks, saying thanks for their support. We also have free community days at the Heritage Museum and free days at the Hackley Hume site on Mother's Day, Father's Day, Hackley Day, and during the month of October.
Okay, Jackie, fun and interesting. What's happening that's fun and interesting with the museum that would be of interest for Rotarians?
So if any of the Rotarians haven't been in yet to see our Cheers, A History of Brewing in Muskegon exhibit, that is going to be up for just one more week. It's coming down. Our last open day will be October 16th. So it's definitely worth a lunch break to come in and scope out the history of brewing in Muskegon. Hint, it started before Unruly and Pigeon Hill. So there's a lot of brewing history here. And then after that exhibit, we'll be opening a new exhibit in November called, and I just want to make sure I get the name right, so I'm going to look at my notes, Who is Rosie Lee Wilkins? Piecing Together Her History. And that is a quilt-based exhibit, but it's more than just a quilt exhibit. It's going to look at the process our curators went through to research Rosie Wilkins, who was a prolific African-American quilter here in Muskegon, and talk about the difficulties that they had in tracking down her story and then what they were able to learn. So it's kind of a two-sided exhibit with both her quilts and her history and story. And then on the program side of things, we have some fun things coming up in October. For anybody with kids or grandkids, we have one of my favorite programs called Smashing Pumpkins on October 16th. It's a Friday evening program that's free for county residents, and kids will be able to decorate pumpkins, and then if they choose, they can have their pumpkin smashed using our museum-built trebuchet, which actually flings the pumpkins at the side of the building. So it's always a really fun time, and that will be an all outside program this year. And then for our Hackley Hume Historic Sites, they have two different events going on in October. One is a grounds tour, so it's an all exterior tour looking at the outside of the buildings. And then the second one, and those are, October 9th and 23rd in the evenings. And then also on the 23rd, but extending into the 24th in the evening, is an opportunity in small groups to tour the Hackley Hume Historic Sites using flashlights. So those are flashlight tours are by registration only, as well as the grounds tours. So you'll want to either contact the historic sites or check out the information on our website on how to register.
Got it. So Erin, tell us what you've got coming this coming year.
Well, we have been doing all kinds of prep for 2021, not only with, some of the programs that Jackie's already mentioned, but some of the curatorial work that we're excited to get started on is we have original stained glass doors, windows in the doors of the front of the House of Hume. Those are original, but they're bowing really badly because of, again, temperature spikes from hot to cold here in Michigan and Muskegon. So we're looking at restoring those this year. We're really excited about that. That's going to be a huge project. And also there's an ongoing window repair in all of the buildings. And so they've just been working their way down in each building to repair each window and re-secure it. I mean, that helps us with our heating and all of the different things, preserving those artifacts even better. So that's an ongoing project. And then, we have some exciting programs returning and then some new programs too. So we'll have escape rooms, the obituary tour, the scandal program, Museum, the live clue game that we play inside the Hackley House, all access tours, holiday tours, and then some new things that we're just starting this next year, which is some lunch and learns on the lawn where you can come this summer, hang out, eat your lunch, get a quick first floor tour, and then go about your day, and some other evening tour opportunities too.
Wow, that's a lot going on. And it sounds like you've done well at accommodating our pandemic. Speaking of pandemics, Melissa, from a institutional basis, what have been your big challenges around this COVID pandemic?
Well, I must say, COVID-19 has definitely, I would say, thrown a monkey wrench in a lot of our plans. 40% of our operating budget comes from special program income, membership, admissions, grants, annual appeals, all the normal stuff that museums do to raise money. We were closed for about 4 months, just like everybody else. And then we had to open back up with reduced attendance, and we're definitely feeling it. Just to give you a sense of what we're dealing with, last year in July, we had around 15,000 visitors at the Museum Center and almost 18,000 at the historic sites just for the month. This year, to compare, we're approximately at 300 for the main and 200 for Hackley Hume. So those are some big differences. So what we're doing is we're just tightening down, and we're still trying to serve, the residents the best we can. We're trying to, like Jackie and Aaron were saying, we're trying to definitely come up with outside type programs that people feel safe coming to. And we're just hoping that, as things get better and restrictions are lifted, that we can welcome more guests to the museum.
Got it. So Aaron, how do you decide in collecting artifacts? How do you decide what to collect?
So the museum has a acquisitions committee that meets monthly, and we talk about all of those prospective donations coming in. And we look at, what was their impact with Muskegon? Were they made here? What is their story here? Their story is just as important as the artifact or the object coming in, because if it's just a really cool object, it doesn't really lend to the story that we're trying to tell to really fill out that Muskegon story. So we make those decisions based on, what the donor has to offer with the object along with the story. So if that object then comes into the museum as a permanent collection, it's our job to care for that thing for as long as we're a museum. And so we have to make sure that we can preserve that object. We have to make sure that we have room for that object and that there's no duplicates, because we don't want to collect, a bunch of the same type of object, because we really want to tell, a wide range of stories. And so collecting a lot of different types of things is important. And then we use those artifacts, they're stored in a collection center, but we use them, we pull them out for different exhibits. So kind of like the quilting exhibit, there, different things will come out of exhibit. And usually museums have only about 10% of their collection on exhibit at any given time. So a lot of the rest of the things are kind of in holding, waiting to have their story be told.
And where do you store those things?
So we do have a collection center and a collections manager that cares for all of those objects. So it's kind of like a warehouse, and everything is very organized. It has a database that we can track all of those things, and then when they come out to exhibit, it's kind of like their heyday. So it's a really exciting time when an object gets to be revealed into an exhibit.
I should jump in and say. Okay. Oh, I was going to add to that if you become a museum member, we do special behind-the-scene tours for just our members at our collection center. So you can kind of see the warehouse, and instead of if any Rotarian wants to become a member of the museum.
Got it. Okay. So Jackie, speaking of, that personal and Muskegon connection, if residents, including Rotarians, wanted to become more involved in the museum, what are the avenues for that?
So there's 3 big ways. As Melissa mentioned, probably the best introduction into the museum aside from just visiting would be to become a member. So in addition to invitations to special events like the behind the scenes tour, our members receive free admission to all of our sites, including the Hackley Hume houses and the Heritage Museum. They also get a discount in the museum store, discounts off of our regular programs that we offer, and also reciprocal memberships with various museums around the state and the country, depending on the level of membership that you choose. So we just finished up in September a reciprocal membership with the John Ball Zoo and the Holland Museum, which was a really great benefit for all of our members. And then if you want to take it one step further, you could consider volunteering at the museum. So even during COVID, we found ways to get our volunteers involved in various projects and events. And then as we start to do more and more, we'll continue to have a need for volunteers at the museum. And then the third way would be to consider donating, whether that is an artifact like Erin talked about, or a monetary donation. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have our main fundraiser this year, which is the Lumber Barons Ball. Some of you may remember from past years. And so in lieu of that, we are doing an annual peel that we're calling Raise the Roof, Shore the Floor. And the money that we raised for that annual peel this fall will go towards replacing the roof on the main museum center building, as well as our archives, which are both several years past that need, and replacing an over-century-old floor joist at the Muskegon Heritage Museum. So they'll need to do some major work on that joist to put in a new, more stable joist. So those are just some fun ways or different ways that people can get involved.
Got it. Okay. As we're wrapping up here, I want to say thank you to Jackie and Erin and Melissa. Melissa, any final words you want to close out with?
I would just say we're open. I know a lot of people walk by and think that maybe we're closed because of COVID, but stop on in, see us. If you're not comfortable going inside any of our buildings, ask for the Mastodon scavenger hunt, and you can go on the scavenger hunt throughout all of downtown Muskegon looking for the mini mastodons that are hidden all over. And there's just some fun ways just to, be part of the museum.
Great. Well, thank you all, and I appreciate, and on behalf of all of Rotary, thank you for this introduction and continued education about Lakeshore Museum. And with that, I turn it back to Mark Myers.